Hi, I'm Josh McGrath.
I'm Andrew Haas.
And this is the Ardent Pursuit Podcast. Welcome back. I hope that you all had a great Christmas. I know, Andrew, that I did. It was fun spending time with family, with friends. How's Christmas for you?
It is such a special time of the year.
It really, really is. Do your kids absolutely love Christmas?
They do. Maybe a little too much.
I know they love Christmas Hallmark films,
Yes, they do.
which I feel like I can take some credit for that.
Take some credit.
I'm very proud of that. If one doesn't have kids, one should find kids to invest in, particularly with encouraging them to love and watch
That you have done.
Hallmark films. So last week we had Luke and Kat on the podcast where they took some time to share with us their story, which was very fun to hear.
It was so cool to see so much of their story touch on different things that we've covered over the past year.
Yes, while we try to, harken back to our own stories, it's really cool to have two people sitting here and from their own personal story, really unpack a lot of the ideas that we've covered over really the last year.
Yeah, I would say they're a great example of how to do it well. And they've, really walked out a lot of the things that we teach in this podcast.
Yeah.
So today we're going to tell you how not to waste another year, which happens to be the title of today's episode.
Because we are looking just a few days away at 2025, we actually wanted to take some time to talk about the importance and value of building a vision for the next year. It's so easy for men to just exist, go into another year doing what they'd done the previous year. And we want to make sure that for our listeners, that they're not just passively engaging with a new year, but that they're actively stewarding this next, 365 days in a way that brings about growth and transformation in their life.
So we know that men by nature are goal-oriented. The problem is we often struggle to turn that into progress. Now, we're going to spend the next couple episodes kind of unpacking that and talking about how to make progress toward goals and vision.
Because, Proverbs 29:18 says that where there is no vision, the people perish. And we unpacked this idea back in episode 2, where we initially introduced the idea of vision. And for men, if you don't have a vision that's bigger than yourself, you will struggle to flourish. You will struggle to grow. You will struggle to find purpose. And so while there are many ways one can craft a vision and create a vision, we know that vision ultimately is going to include things like goals. Goals take hard work, they take action. And these are all things that men need to be moving towards always in their life. But what a great time to start right before the beginning of a brand new year.
And here's something that men need to really understand for all this to make sense, is that men are called to lead, if only themselves.
Yes.
So men need to start by leading themselves well, and then that obviously sets them up to lead others well.
Yeah, because leadership is not, a position one holds. It can be, but it's not necessarily that. It's really a posture that one takes. And for men, single or not, we need to recognize that we have a call and a mandate to lead. And it starts by being able to lead ourselves. How can one ever lead a wife or lead a family or lead a team at work if one can't lead himself in his own personal life?
And you'll sometimes hear men say, well, I'm just not naturally good at leading. And what men need to understand is that it's not so much about what you're good at, but it's what you're called to.
Yes.
And there's just something fundamental about the masculine identity that was designed to lead.
And the reason why we're talking about setting a vision is because part of leadership is being able to set vision, but then pursue vision.
Yes.
It's not enough just to have great ideas and then sit passively by hoping those come to fruition. You actually have to take actionable steps towards that. And it's important that we specify that vision is different than New Year's resolutions. And while New Year's resolutions, may be beneficial in some capacity, the reality is that New Year's resolutions, by and large, just make people feel depressed and frustrated. Here's some great stats about New Year's resolutions. 40% of U.S. adults set New Year's resolutions every year. So almost half of
American
adults. But only 9% of that group are successful in keeping them by the end of the year. That's a pretty low number. And then 1 out of 4 people give up within 1 week and half quit by the end of January. And I know this to be true because if you've ever had a gym membership, you go in the first couple days of the new year, the place is packed. I'm like, where did all you people come from? And by the end of January, all the equipment is available again. It really is amazing.
So many New Year's resolutions fail because we often don't know the why. And it's really important to know the why in even talking about vision and New Year's resolutions. Without knowing why you're doing something, so it's so easy to just stop doing it.
Yeah.
And that's what we see. So with creating a vision and with moving toward goals, it's really, really important to understand why you're doing it.
Because if your why isn't bigger than just something selfish, something personal, and sometimes those can even be good. Like, I want to be healthier. That's a great goal. And we've talked about this before, which is, if your goal of going to the gym is so you've got a 6-pack and you get all the babes, well, in the process, you'll probably get healthy, but that's a bad reason to go to the gym.
Right, because when you end up not getting all the babes, you're like, well, why am I even doing this?
Exactly. Whereas when health is the driving factor, it doesn't matter what the outcome is. You're doing it because you know it's healthy. And health, you're looking at the longevity of your life and you being around and present to love, bless, and serve other people.
Right. For example, to kind of unpack that a little more, if you're going to the gym to be strong and capable and competent so you can help others, so you can lead well, so you can, for married guys, be a blessing to your family, those are good reasons to work out, to stay strong. There's a why, there's something there, helping you move forward.
One of the things that's so good about having a vision that's bigger than yourself is because men are goal-oriented, it gives us something to run after. However, it's easy, at least for me at times, to fall into, cynicism, apathy, hopelessness, to be frustrated at the world around you. And I've seen this online. I've read about it in articles, and there are some studies that reflect this. But for men, by and large, kind of culturally, there is a lot of despair when it comes to the future, whether that's looking at marriage and, kind of love and romantic relationships, whether that's, financial opportunity, whether that's things like being able to buy or own your own home one day. It's easy for men to be frustrated and to just look around and be like, why even bother?
Yeah, and part of that is often because a man's goals are too narrow. We don't have a big enough view of what we should be pursuing. We might want to be stronger or run faster, farther, or earn more, date more, whatever it is. We can have a goal that's pretty narrow, and that can lead to all these other things kind of popping up and becoming present because we're not really pursuing the things that will make us healthy.
Yeah.
So a good vision is going to have the right goals, but what you're really asking is, what are the goals you should be going after?
So the question becomes, how does one, craft a vision? We're only a few days out here from 2025, and we want every one of our listeners to be thinking about a vision for their own lives for 2025. So we're going to use a strategy that is very commonly used, in the corporate world, and I think probably some people use it personally. It's known as the SMART goal strategy. So it stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. And that's kind of the rubric you use when trying to set goals.
So we'll start with the first one, specific. You'll want to answer the who, what, why, when, where. And that really helps clarify exactly what you're going after.
Yes, because you can't pursue something that you can't define. And so I think a great example would be something like, I want to increase my weekly running from 5 miles a week to 10 miles a week. We're being specific. You're going from 5 to 10 within a duration. How long? A week. Which really gets us into, the second one, which is measurable. And again, measurable has to be something that you can, by definition, measure. It's not this vague thing.
Right. You couldn't just say run faster.
Exactly. Because it's like, Well, what do you mean by faster?
Right.
Or just, run longer? Well, how much longer?
Right. You could say that's specific, but it's not actually measurable.
Exactly. And so anytime you're setting a goal, you want to be able to look back on that goal and be able to measure against it to know whether you were able to achieve it. So going back to our running example, I want to run 5 miles a week and I want to increase that to 10 miles a week. And I want to do that for 8 weeks. I want to be able to run 10 miles for 8 weeks. Each of those numbers are very specific that allow you to measure your success.
And the next one, achievable, is really important because as guys, we do have a tendency to bite off more than we can chew.
Mm-hmm.
But with achievable, you want to make sure it's something that is realistic given your resources, your time, your abilities. It's got to be within what's actually possible for where you are in life.
That is so important because, when you're crafting a vision or setting goals on paper, it's kind of like fantasy land. It's like Monopoly money. Anything seems possible and it looks really good there. And at the beginning of a new year with the wind at your back, it's like the world is your oyster. I can do anything. And so suddenly you start putting these stupid, unrealistic things, on your goals for 2025. You're like, oh, I'm going to grow 6 inches and I'm going to make, $500,000. Meanwhile, you're 5'2" and work at a minimum wage job. And it's like, hey, I love the aspiration. That's not going to happen.
Too often, guys actually don't struggle with confidence, and it's almost, the fake it till you make it mentality. Guys will often look at a list and be like, oh, that's totally doable. I got that.
Yes.
And it's like, but do you?
And the tension really is making sure that you're setting a goal that is going to stretch you. You don't want to set a goal that like tomorrow you can achieve.
Right. Then it's not a goal.
Yeah. If my goal tomorrow is to, not go to the gym, done.
Already achieved.
Already achieved. So like you've got to set some type of goal that does stretch you, but a goal that is still realistic. And men, I don't know if all men feel this way, but sometimes we'll be like let down by our goal setting because what we set was unrealistic, and so we don't achieve it, and then we're like bitter and frustrated and annoyed and with the world and life, and we blame all these other kind of outlets when in reality we just set up an unrealistic expectation of what we want to accomplish.
Yeah, and as a guy, what you need to find is that space between easy and unrealistic. That's kind of where you want to live, right? Yep. You don't want it to be easy. That's not a goal, and it obviously can't be unrealistic.
So true. So going back to our running example, let's build on that. So I want to run from 5 miles a week to eventually 10 miles a week, and I want to be able to do that for 8 weeks, sustain that for 8 weeks. How am I going to achieve it? I'm going to increase my weekly running by a mile every single week, based upon my ability and my time availability. I know I can increase my running by 1 mile a week. And so again, we're making that goal achievable incrementally.
And something that's been true in my own life regarding achievability is it's better to err on the side of caution, so to speak. Don't go too small, but also I've realized that if I go big and something's not achievable, that is more mentally disheartening than to have a smaller goal, even if it's 6 months out, and you might think, well, that's kind of lame.
Sure.
In 6 months, I hope to be farther progressed, which is fine, but 6 months is going to come, whether you want it to or not. So you're going to be there someday.
Yeah.
So do you want to be there having made a little bit of progress, or you could be there having burnt out early and not achieved anything?
That's the Dave Ramsey approach, right? Kind of when it comes to paying off debt. Pay down your small debts first. Why? Because then you see that as a win. And you feel that win. You feel that ownership, and it puts wind in your sails to really kind of continue tackling the larger debt. And same thing here when it comes to goals and achieving them. Now, bringing us back to our SMART goal planning, I want to look at the R, relevant. And this is one that, I don't know, we probably don't think about often, at least when it comes to personal goal setting. But it's really important because whatever goal that we are establishing for ourselves, it has to be relevant to our life's purpose and plans. Setting a random goal for myself, like I want to be the best basketball player in all of the East Coast. Like, okay, that's a goal. one could argue it's a health-oriented goal,
Right.
but like, I don't play sports, particularly basketball.
Yeah.
It's not relevant to my life in any way. And so it's really important that if you're going to achieve a goal, it's got to be something that's relevant to your life's plans and purpose.
Right. There are a lot of things that interest us, and men need to be careful about pursuing the things that interest them, which can be okay in the right context. But it can't just be something interesting. I would love to learn French. It's unfortunately not relevant to my life.
Yeah.
And so it's just probably not going to happen.
And so when it comes to deciding what is my goal going to be for 2025, you've got to examine each goal through the lens of, is this relevant to who I want to become and to really my call and purpose in life? If it's not, maybe don't make it a goal for 2025, because either you will find yourself wasting time or not achieving it.
And the next one is time bound. With time bound, it's important to set goals or deadlines to help you maintain focus, because without it, you can very quickly lose momentum.
And as we saw from the New Year's resolution stats, most people do.
Yes.
It's extremely easy to set lofty goals, and because there are no timelines associated with them, suddenly it's hard to have the momentum to carry you through to the finish line. And a timeline, a realistic timeline no less. You can't say, here's my 50-year timeline on getting in shape. It's like,
no, doesn't work.
It doesn't work. Whereas if you set maybe a 6-month or a 1-year goal, where you're saying, here's my timeline to get in shape, it's amazing what can happen in your life when you've got a definitive end date to that goal.
Right. And something good to keep in mind is, say you have a goal of losing 20 pounds in 2025.
Great goal.
End of the year comes and you've lost 10 pounds. It's like, well, did you not hit your goal? Well, maybe technically on paper, but you lost 10 pounds and you're more toward that than you would be otherwise.
And it gives you a place to reevaluate from. One of the purposes behind crafting a vision with measurable goals is so that at the end of the year, you can look back and you can measure your success. Again, because men, we are goal-oriented. We like to see increase. We like to see success. But the only way you can do that is by measuring it.
Right.
And so, again, by using kind of the SMART goal, strategy, you'll find yourself a year from now, December 2025, being able to measure the success that you've had throughout the year. And I'm telling you, it is so fulfilling. It's so exciting. It's so life-giving to be able to see the areas of growth and the areas where maybe you didn't grow as much as you want. That becomes a place to kind of orient your new goals for the upcoming year.
And it's better, for example, to set a goal of losing 20 pounds and say you don't reach that and only lose 5. That is better than just saying, for next year, I want to lose weight. And maybe you end up losing 5 pounds or 10 pounds. Great. But really what you want to do is set something. And even if you don't fully get there, that's less important. Now you can always stop and evaluate, hey, why didn't I fully reach that goal? But that's the secondary. The first thing is that you're actually making progress. Now, goals are not simply additive. It's not just doing this, adding a bunch of things and saying, this is my vision. It's actually often what you say no to. And that is a really important distinction.
So going back to your losing weight analogy, I think that when it comes to New Year's resolutions, a lot of people have health-oriented goals, which is great. So maybe one of my goals in 2025 is to lose 20 pounds. It's not just an addition of what I'm doing, but it's a lot of what I'm actually not doing. I'm not, doing late night snacking. I'm not going out for fast food. I'm not drinking sugary drinks. No, I'm also doing certain things, right? I'm eating healthier. I'm watching what I eat. Hopefully I have some type of fitness plan. So I am doing things, but I'm also not doing things.
And it's really important that there's both together. If you're just working out, also eating stuff you shouldn't be eating, that's going to be unhelpful. And if you just eat really healthy in this example, but you're not really exercising, also, you're not really going to see any progress.
And consistency over time produces life-changing results. We live in the McDonald's fast food era, the Amazon next day shipped, era where if I start to do something, if I'm not seeing huge results immediately, I'm out. And so often when men set goals, they begin pursuing it, and your goal should be hard. It should challenge you.
Yes.
So you start to do this, and a day goes by, a week goes by, 2 weeks goes by, and then you're like, yeah, see, I've been at the gym 2 weeks, and I don't look like that shredded guy on the internet who's been doing it for 20 years. So yeah, clearly this isn't for me. I'm out. And I'm like, well, I mean, yes, you haven't put in, the incremental time over the course of months or years.
Yes, this is not a get rich quick.
No, it isn't. And I think that's something that we have to remind men to fight against the cultural idea that, you take the pill, you lose the weight. It's like that's just not real life.
Right. Nor does it really create in us good character anyway. If there are shortcuts, now, as guys, we love to take shortcuts.
Yes.
If there's a quicker way to get somewhere, we're going to do it.
Yes.
But that really is in opposition to the things that men really should be known for. Men of character, high quality, trust, honor, dignity, all those things really come through like the hard work.
And one of the things that it's so important for all men who are listening to understand is that by doing this, by having a vision and moving towards it, by and large, you will be more attractive and interesting to healthy women.
So much so.
I think sometimes we as guys tend to think like, well, that's just like so much work, and that's like something you do, when you're older, or when you're married, or when you own your own business. Like, I'm the single guy, maybe living at home with my parents. I don't really do all of that. And it's like, well, you should. This is good for you regardless of if you ever want to be in a relationship. But guess what? If you want to be in a relationship, start having a vision, start moving towards that vision, start setting goals, and you will find that women will find you just naturally more attractive and interesting.
Yeah, put another way, if you want to attract quality, healthy women, if you want that type of woman to find you interesting, these are the things that should be well established in your life.
Yeah, well, women like to see men of action. They like to see a man with a vision. Why? Because if a man has a vision for himself, then he'll likely have a vision for a romantic relationship should he pursue her. At which point he'll have a vision for a marriage once he is romantically pursuing her. At which point means he'll probably have a vision for family once they are married. And so there's something very attractive about that. And while, yes, the Lord can help you, and through mentors and accountability, can you learn that at a later stage in your life? Don't wait until you're in a relationship. Don't wait until you're engaged. Don't wait until you're married. Don't wait till you have a family to begin building and moving towards a vision. Start today, particularly when you're single.
What women are often interested in is not the man specifically. They are more often interested in what he represents, meaning where is he going? What is he oriented toward? What are his values? What are his priorities? What's his future look like? Those things, which obviously encompass him, but on the whole are much bigger than him, that's really what interests women. Not all, but a lot. And men need to realize, I can't just live life how I want to. That's not going to produce any growth in me, and it's certainly not going to set me up for success should I be in a relationship. But to really have a vision and have goals, and where do I want to be in a year, in 5 years, in 10 years?
Right now there's an aimlessness among American men. They're just kind of existing in a perpetual state of maybe frustration, of anger, of hopelessness, of cynicism. And if you want to stand out from the crowd, if you want to be different, be a man who has a vision and is moving towards that. That will set you apart from everybody. And we were talking about this before recording today. Not just women find that attractive. Other men will find that attractive. And we're not talking in a romantic way. We're talking in like a magnetism, like drawn to you way. There's a reason people like Elon Musk are like revered by so many. Why? Because he's a man with a vision, and he comes into companies and into situations with a vision to do what no one else thinks is possible. And as a result, like people are just attracted to that. People want to work for him and with him because of his vision and because of the way that he goes about executing it. And so obviously that's like the extreme, like basically no one will ever be like Elon.
Mm-hmm.
But in our own individual lives, we can have a vision that we're moving towards, that we're executing. And you can stand out in your workplace, in your home, among your friends, in your local church, in the community. Have a vision and move towards it.
Yes, not only can you do those things, it is imperative that you do those things.
Yes. So for 2025 vision setting, there are 8 areas that we are going to be discussing in the coming weeks that we want to encourage men to have vision for in their own lives. Those 8 areas are spiritually, relationally, physically, mentally, financially, intellectually, creatively, and practically. So some very important areas there that we'll dive into in the coming weeks. So as we conclude here, there's 2 things that we want you to do. Number 1, so the rubric that we're going to use to equip you to craft a vision for 2025 can be found on our website. We're going to link to it in the description here on YouTube, as well as in our bio on Instagram. Of course, you can always email us, contact at ardentpursuit.fm for it. Use this template and build it for yourself. These are categories, they're not goals. You've got to set the goals yourself. We've talked today, very high level, very quickly, about how one creates and sets goals. Go through each of those categories, all 8 categories, and set specific goals for yourself. And number 2, man or woman, do not go into 2025 without having set a vision for the next year. As always, we love having you here on the Ardent Pursuit podcast. We look forward to having you here next time.